Hello guys, this is Doronsmovies, and you're watching the 32nd episode of the LoreQ&A. So today I'll be answering some of the questions you guys left in the previous video, and if you'd like to get your questions answered, make sure to put them on the newest Q&A lore video. You can also put them on the older ones, but the newer ones are the ones I usually check. And you can also send your questions by YouTube personal messages, Facebook and Twitter, as you have links in the description for that below. Alright, without further ado, let's start. The Coolest asks, what would you think of each factions doing different things in an expansion, like Alliance taking back Lordaeron and Horde curing their demon blood problem, or something like that? So, I'm guessing there's gonna be people complaining again because I already answered a similar question to this, but it is a cool idea, as you mentioned, to have two different things. I mean, thing I noticed so far is that Horde and Alliance stuff is just far too similar, I mean, so far in the alpha. Like, for example, you have the Shadowmoon Valley and the Frostfire Ridge. So pretty much in Worlds of Draenor, people start out in the Tanaan jungle, then there's like this epic event, and then the Horde goes on one side to the Frostfire Ridge, and the Alliance goes to the Shadowmoon Valley. But I'm not certain if that is final, but that is so far in the alpha. And all of those quests are kinda similar. I mean, at least the starter, zone quests. For example, you have the gather like 10 lumber, kill that big mob, and kill those 10 mobs as starters. I mean, I guess that's kind of to introduce the player to the zone. But still, there are a few, quests that are kind of similar. And I get that Blizzard, is trying to cater towards both the Horde and the Alliance, because people always complain and people will always complain, but they can kind of make it a bit more interesting, with two different storylines. I mean, they are different when you look at it. I mean, the Horde doesn't have the same, story plot as the Alliance, but they can make it similar but different, if you know what I mean. I mean, they can, for example, make those quests a bit different, but still, teach the player the same thing. They don't have to make it so symmetrical, like have the same quest, but, just different quest text and different characters. But that's at least for the intro stuff. I feel like they should, kind of divide the intro stuff for the Horde and Alliance so they can do different things. Although, late game, I think they should kind of focus on the same goal, and that would be kind of more interesting. Usually the Horde and the Alliance band together in some way. Or, usually people want to experience, the late game content at the same time. And, late game content is kind of the most important part in an expansion. And then there's gonna be people, like, complaining how one faction's content is better than the others. So, I guess that's why, they have to make it similar. But, so far, I really don't see something like that happening. Unless, they kinda risk it and try out something new. Alright, next. John asks, I have two random questions. The first one is, do you think Garrison will start making WoW pay to win? And also, do you think Garrosh will become best friend with his father or Gul'dan? I wouldn't really say pay to win, because the Garrisons really don't give you an advantage, for one player to another. So I don't think you can even spend real money on it, so it's not really pay to win. But so far what I've noticed that the Garrisons could take you a lot of gold. I think I saw like some sort of a screenshot. I mean, it said some plans, there was like a bunch of, these plans for the Garrison, and each was like 5-10,000 gold. So it could actually be expensive, gold wise. But I don't think, and at least I hope they don't, introduce like actual money investing in the Garrisons, because that would actually make it pay to win, and actually would kind of suck. But so far in the alpha, I haven't done too much on my Garrison, but it does actually seem pretty cool, although a lot of it is not really finished yet, and there's a lot of things they're probably gonna add on the release, so I guess, we'll have to wait out and see. But so far, the thing I'm kind of worried about the Garrisons is that, I feel like they can get old. I mean, I feel like it's going to be one of those things, when you have like, for example, you have the Garrison, and then what happens is you build all of these things in the Garrison, you invest so much time, and then there's like nothing you can do anymore in the Garrison. So I'm a bit worried about that. I hope they update it in like patches, so that you can constantly, work on your Garrison, because I hope that it doesn't just end up as one of those, 2-month content and then everyone is complaining how it's boring or how it sucks. Because, I mean, so far the Garrisons are a really good concept, and I do hope, they actually make something worth of it. Okay, so for your second question, well, I'm not really, certain on that. I mean, they haven't really showed Garrosh or Grommash so far in the alpha together, or even, I don't think they even showed them separately, or, at least I haven't gotten to that part. They have mentioned them. I saw, like, Grommash Hellscream yelling something, but I don't think there was, like, a model. He was, like, behind some hill. I believe it was, like, a placeholder, but so far, they only mentioned them, but haven't showed them yet. But, Grom Hellscream so far does appear pretty badass. But, as I mentioned, I saw a few letters and, a few sites, that mentioned Hellscream, but they didn't really say who it was, so I'm not really sure. Was it either Grommash or Garrosh? I mean, so far as I noticed, they mentioned Grommash, but haven't mentioned Garrosh. But, personally, I kind of feel that, Grom is going to have a bigger role and he's going to be the one with authority, compared to, Garrosh. I feel like Garrosh is going to just do what his father says, but I'm not really certain, so we're going to have to wait at and see, because, it's even hard to speculate, because that's like bringing new characters and older ones, characters, that never met, so I don't think there is any way to speculate it. Okay, next on, Drexar asks, why are all the Nagas only under the command of Queen Ashara? There are good and the bad Tauren, good and the bad trolls, etc. Why are all the Naga are evil? Some Nagas can work with the Alliance or Horde, becoming a playable race in a future expansion as the Dark Below or something like that. Well, you can say that because all of the Nagas, kinda became Nagas in the same time. I mean, when you look at, for example, as you mentioned, like the Trolls, actually the Tauren. For example, you have the Tonka and the Yongol guys and the Tauren. And they are actually the same people, but they got split up ages ago, and I guess they, picked the wrong side. Also, the Trolls, they actually split as well, they did bad things and all of that. But the Nagas actually lived under the sea for the entire time. I mean, if you know a bit about the lore, they were the Highborn. Like, kind of the douchey Night Elves, I guess. That felt like they were bigger than the other ones. And then they were turned by the Naga and were led by Queen Ashara into the, in the water when they were exiled afterwards. So, Queen Ashara was pretty evil, and I'm guessing she still is. If you ever see her again, thus all Naga are kinda evil as well because they're following her. But, if a Dark Below expansion ever comes out, I kinda can't see, Naga joining one faction, or, just being like a neutral, a faction that can pick either Horde or the Alliance, something like the Pandaren. And of course, like, they can make a story for them, like making them, outcasts from the original Naga, or, rebels of some sort. So, it is kind of possible that not all Nagas are evil, they can kind of be better now if they split off from Queen Ashara. But I'm guessing if a Dark Below expansion ever comes out, we will be maybe able to see something like that, but they will have to, kind of adjust those Nagas to, make them playable. Okay, next on, Eddie asks, do you think we'll be able to face Sargeras, and if so, how can we beat something that is immune to almost all kind of damage? Adrian, one of the strongest mages ever to live on Azeroth, did defeat his avatar, but Sargeras wanted to lose so he could possess her, and also was just an avatar and not the whole power of Sargeras. Honestly, I get this question a lot, and a lot of people are wondering about that, and I actually feel that one day we will be able, to face off Sargeras, but I'm guessing that is going to be, many expansions from now. Although, I mean, we could definitely, face something like his avatar, or, something like that in the future. I mean, that is possible, Blizzard can always come up with some sort of a story for that, but, we definitely wouldn't be able to kill him, like, in, like, a raid, like a 25-man raid. That would just be insane. Or something, because he's just insanely strong. I mean, he's not like one of those mobs. He's 10 times even stronger than those old gods. So I don't really see, us kind of fighting him in, in that manner. But I think the only time actually a mortal managed to damage him was when, Broxigar the Red did it. And, Broxigar the Red was like this veteran, excellent fighter. And he also had like this super enhanced axe, I believe by Cenorius. And all he did was pretty much just give, Sargeras like a small paper cut that distracted him for a few seconds. And, Crassus and his allies, casted magic on him. So they kind of distracted him, but they haven't actually hurt him, physically. But in the end, when you look at it, I mean, they never actually, did that much damage. Plus, Broxiger was killed just like that by Sargeras. So, even with all that, I mean, a mortal can pretty much just, give him like a tiny paper cut. So, if we ever do face him, I'm guessing we're gonna need some sort of like insane magic or like help from a lot of really powerful people. But yeah, I don't really see that happening, at least in the next few expansions. Alright, and the last question is by Fenrir, and he asks, after war crimes, do you feel like the Tauren, Anduin, Velen, and even Vol'jin are sympathetic in the eyes of the rivaling faction? The trials did shed some light on it, but do you think it will have any impact, or is Warlords of Draenor sort of cancelling that out? Also, what do you feel about sub-factions for races in a future expansion, like Dark Iron Dwarves, Jungle Trolls among the Darkspear, Vrykul with the humans, Night Elf Worgen with the Gilneans, other races, between the Forsaken, Brown Orcs, High Elves with the Blood Elven, or the Tonka alongside the Tauren, etc. If it was a thing, how would you organize the sub-races? Also on the Garrisons, I feel like they'll just be another way for you to gather supplies, send them off while you're getting things without having to personally farm. I sort of want the ability to take a small raiding group with you on actual raids or dungeons, but that might be understandably too complex to balance out properly. Well, for the first question, well, in War Crimes, they did kinda end up on like a good note. I mean, there was like a major peace between the two factions. They kinda had a mutual understanding, but we'll just have to wait out and see on the release. I'm guessing there's gonna be something again. I mean, they always like reach this peace thing and always like start to fight again. Because, there has to be PvP and they want to make like PvP events. So I'm guessing that's probably gonna be cancelled out, most likely in the future. But it probably won't be as savage as it was with Garrosh. I mean, in Warlords of Draenor, they do kinda seem together when you look at it. Like Khadgar, Troll, that Night Elf, the Tauren, and a few others. But so far that's the alpha, so that could just be placeholders. I'm not really certain if that will be on the release. As I said, we'll have to wait out and see when the story is finished. So once they remove all these placeholders, so that we know when everything is final. Okay, so on your second question, well, I did actually answer this question multiple times in previous videos, but I do actually think it would be a great idea. I mean, if they did sub races, I would honestly do it mostly just as skins, in that sense. As, anything about that, like making, factions under two major factions, or like these, I don't know, like all these people, it would kind of be complicated and, kind of unnecessary as well. But I would make it as skins, when making a character, as, that would kind of be great for RP, when, for example, you can be a Blackrock Orc or a few others. But, I would probably do it just as a skin, maybe also having like an option to choose tattoos, or as I mentioned before, like the orcs, for example, you can be brown or black or green. Like, I mean, that would be pretty badass. Although, some of these like wouldn't really work because the Naga are actually, the orcs that haven't got corrupted because they had like some sort of pox, I believe. And yeah, there aren't really that many of them, so making them playable wouldn't really, make that much sense. Alright, so for your third question, well, as I said previously, we haven't had that much time with the Garrisons. I only built, I believe, the barracks, in the alpha, so I really don't know too much about it, but, so far they seem like a really cool addition to the game, although I'm not really certain on how customizable they will be, and if they will actually, have like a serious, like, replay value. Also, I'm guessing they will add more on the release, but also I'm guessing that they will add more, to the Garrisons on the release, but we'll see then. But I mean, they did kind of make them useful. For example, in the alpha you had that spell, I think it was like Call to Arms or something like that. It had like a 5-minute cooldown, so you could send like your soldiers from the garrison to attack a certain area, and it was actually really effective. I mean, you could seriously like kill an elite mob with that, so that was a really, cool addition. So, I mean, I do believe on the release, we should have a lot of useful features from the garrison, so we shouldn't be just like, oh, we just added those garrisons, because we wanted some basic player housing, and, because people complained that there is no player housing in World of Warcraft, but there is in other games, so we just added it because of that. But I feel like it's gonna have more replay value to it, and a lot more aspects added to it, so it won't be just basic player housing. Okay, and that is all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your questions either by YouTube comment section, YouTube personal messages, and Facebook and Twitter, as you have links in the description for that below. And thanks for watching, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. See you next time.